Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Earwax. I'm Colin, and today we're going to be doing a review of the brand new album by Sam Fender, People Watchin'. Alright, so this is the third full-length album from English singer, songwriter, musician Sam Fender, and the first album of his that I've actually given a full listen to. So I first got into Sam Fender in 2021 with his debut solo album, Hypersonic Missiles. My local indie radio station used to play that song a lot, and it's a good song. I got into it. It was super catchy. Definitely gives some American kind of rock and roll vibes. Like not straight up rock and roll. It's more like kind of, I want to say, like American stadium pop rock. And that's kind of been his vibe, like the whole, at least from like everything that I've heard from him up until now. Keeping in mind that he is from England, it's interesting that that's really the kind of direction that most of his music goes, but it's not bad. Like, he's always been good, but there's nothing that's really ever like grabbed me and pulled me in and made me want to like really listen to more of his stuff. So leading up to this album, there was a few singles that were released, and I liked them, well enough. They weren't incredible in my opinion, but I think they were pretty solid. But I kept seeing like reviews and anticipations and people putting this on like their most watch lists, and the hype around this album, at least like that I saw, was hard to ignore. So decided I would give it a full listen, or for my reviews I do 3 full listens and see exactly what all the hype was about. And before we get into the actual like track by track breakdown, I do want to say I tried to go into this as objectively as possible, and I think I did a pretty good job about that. And I think my grade reflects that, even if not every part of the album fully landed with me. So before we get into the track list, guys, if you could please like, subscribe, ring that bell, all that stuff really helps me out. Comment down below, let me know what you think of the album, and if you get a chance, go check out my Patreon. I got some cool stuff up. So without further ado, let's get into the track list. So the album opens up with the title track, People Watching, and I believe this was like the first single I heard. I don't know if it was the first one that he released, but I think it was the first one that was getting like somewhat regular play on my local radio station. And it's a good song. Like, it's catchy, it's fun, it's upbeat. It's got like that kind of Bruce Springsteen, to quote Bo Burnham, turnpike rock. But there's nothing about this song that, again, like, is really, really super exciting or interesting to me. Like, I think it's good. I think it's well done. It's just not like, I don't know. It's just not a song that I really feel like an urge to keep coming back to. And I think that could be said for a lot of the songs on the album, but especially if like this is going to be the title track for the album and the one that you're going to put out, it just wasn't doing it for me. It is catchy. It's easy to sing along to. The guitar work here is fine. The rhythm section, like the drum and the bass guitar, it's again fine. Like, there's nothing super exciting about it. It's well done. It's well performed. It's a well written song. But it just falls a little flat for me as far as like an excitement level goes. There is some like kind of generic sax towards the end as well, which just feels, I don't know, a little unnecessary. Like, I feel like it wasn't super needed in this particular song, but it is what it is. I'm never going to complain too much about some extra saxophone thrown in on a stadium rock song. After that, we get into Nostalgia's Lie, which is another like pretty straightforward, just like soft pop rock song. Again, the instrumentation, nothing too exciting here. It's good. It's well done. I don't know. To me, like, the first image that I got when I was listening to the song is like a music video of someone just like walking down an abandoned train track, which, I don't know, I feel like it's been done a million times before. And I don't know if that is the music video for this song. Like, I've never seen it, but that's just like the vibes that it was giving me. It's a fun song, but it's nothing that's really, really exciting me up until like this point of the album, which, again, we're only 2 songs in, but I would have liked something to grab me a little bit stronger right from the beginning. But then after that, we get into Chin Up. And Chin Up is a bit more of like a coffee shop kind of singer-songwriter vibe. It is slightly more interesting than the 2 songs before it, so I'll give it credit for that. but still like the instrumentation is not really doing it for me. Sam's vocals, I mean, I'll give him that. Like his like the like baritone range that he sings in, his cadence and everything, like it's good. He's a very talented singer and talented musician. It's just like, again, nothing super unique or interesting about this. I do want to say before we get too much further in, there are some songs on the later part of this album that I think are absolutely incredible. So I'm not just dogging it all in the beginning. I think the second half of this album is much stronger than the first half. But yeah, so towards the end of Chin Up, there is like this nice kind of like string section that comes in that I think does add some like depth and complexity to the song, and I do actually really enjoy. But then after that, we get into Wild Long Lie. Now this one, it starts off pretty like straightforward, nothing super crazy right in the beginning. I will say the percussion and the bass guitar is a little bit bouncier here. The guitar is slightly more interesting. I think Sam's vocals come off a little bit more nuanced here than the previous few songs. But a little over halfway through, it actually like picks up a little bit. And you've got like some guitar soloing for a bridge. They kind of work that into the outro. And I actually did end up really enjoying this song. It's got almost like a soft country vibe at first, but then it like kind of gets back into the more like stadium pop rock feel towards the end of it. And then there's some also like more saxophone here towards the end, but it doesn't feel quite as out of place as it did on the title track. But then we get into Arm's Length, which is probably the most like Killers inspired, Killers leaning song on this album, and it sounds just as generic as some of like their stuff. I don't get me wrong, I like the Killers and I like Sam Fender. This album and this song in particular, it just feels really safe, really just kind of just boring to an extent almost. Like there's, again, just nothing about this song that's really grabbing me and pulling me in. But then we get into Crumbling Empires, and Crumbling Empires to me is like the start of the stronger part of this album. I love this song. I think it's got a super catchy chorus, and I think it's got a super catchy chorus. The instrumentation here is a lot more interesting, a lot more fun. The guitar work here is really cool, almost like funky and groovy in a kind of soft, restrained way, but it works super well. Even the rhythm section, not super, daring or unique here, but it drives the song forward, and it feels more in place here than it has at like up to this point on the album. From there, we get into A Little Bit Closer, which is back to kind of the more like stadium pop rock with a little bit of like country vibes to it. A little bit of a down tick after Crumbling Empires, but still a fine song. It reminds me kind of more of like the first half of the album. But then we get from there into Rein Me In, and this song is just super cool. Again, nothing like drastically different than what we've heard so far on the album, but presented in a way, or I guess coming off in a way for me that is a little bit more unique and interesting, and like has some moments that really do excite me. The guitar tones, the instrumentation, it's not drastically different, but it's exciting enough right at the beginning, and it's almost like kind of a playful vibe to it that it really does kind of drive the interest of the song like throughout the entire thing. The drums here again are a little bit more bouncy. There's it's just overall, I think like where the album could have gone was like this song, and I feel like leading up to this point, minus Crumbling Empire, like this could have been the vibe on the whole album and had a little bit more like creativity thrown into it. But again, that's not to say like the rest of the album isn't good. It is, but this song is like, it just made me want more of stuff like this. The piano comes in, gives it like more of like a kind of classic rock and roll vibe. I will say my one criticism though with this song is the few points where he like really drops hard like the F word, and it just is so off-putting for like the kind of like whole atmosphere that the instrumentation is building. Again, I'm not one to tell anyone like what they can or can't do with their songwriting. It's just it's a weird fit. It kind of takes me out of the immersion a little bit. But then we get into TV Dinner, and this is a hell of a song. I absolutely love this song. I get like light Nick Cave vibes from it at certain points. The piano and the strings work super well off to each other. The drums actually feel like they have some swagger here. which I think is super cool. And then Sam's vocals, like the cadence that he uses throughout this song, is super catchy. It's got, again, some like bravado to it. I think this is hands down the best song on the album, and it might be like my favorite song of his that he's ever written. Just an absolute gem of a track, and one that I'm glad I took the time to listen to, because I don't know if I would have necessarily pulled it out if I hadn't listened to this album. And then we get into the last couple songs, starting with Something Heavy. And this is back into the more sort of like folk leaning aesthetic that he did on a few of the previous songs. A little bit alt country, but still definitely like sticking with that stadium pop rock vibe that he has become very well known for. But yeah, this one, it's like, again, same thing, not drastically different than what we've gotten up until this point on the album. But something about this one does hit a little bit different for me. Like, the chorus grabs me a little bit stronger. The guitar work, I think, is just a little bit more interesting, a little bit more nuanced. And yeah, I like this song a lot. I think had this been at maybe like the beginning of the album, I would have been more engaged in the first few songs. But it does fit nicely here, because I think an album really stands on how it finishes. And then to go from this into Remember My Name is such a strong finish. So Remember My Name is such a good example of what I talk about when I say like an album needs a finishing song, like putting intention into what song you're going to end an album on. And this one is such a great way to do it. I mean, vocal themes and lyrical themes aside, like the fact that this is such a vocal driven song, very light orchestral kind of swelling pieces back up those vocals but never take away from the focus of it, and it's just short enough where it doesn't feel like it's, you know, dragging on too long, but it's long enough to make it feel like a cohesive finish to the album. So overall, I did really enjoy this album. Like, I think there is parts from the beginning that maybe bored me a little bit, and I definitely you know, think that it's not one I'm going to put on heavily in my rotation, but it's undeniable that it's a good album. Like, the songs are written very well. The performances played on it are very well done. And it's again, it's a good album. I don't think it's a great album. I think there's a couple things holding it back a little bit. It has the potential to be great, but I don't think it quite made it there, which is why I'm feeling a solid B on this album. I think there's people that are going to love this. I think there's people that are like me going to be bored by it, but I think it's kind of hard to argue against the quality of the songwriting on this album as a whole. So that's going to be it for me, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Like I said at the beginning, if you could please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Let me know what you think of this album. If you haven't listened to it, go check it out. And as always, I'll talk to you later. Peace.